Hello, hello, amazing ones. I am so excited today for our conversation around navigating joy on this episode of BodyMind Living podcast. I think I'm supposed to say that now. That's what my team says. So we have with us today our special guest, Alina McGilloway. And hi, Alina. How are you?
So
You're
excited to be
here.
here. I made it.
You're here. So before we dive in, I do want to read your amazing, awesome bio. Alina McGilloway is the creator and founder of Core Momentum Coaching of Illumify Anumi, LLC. Sorry, don't want to forget the LLC. She has over 15 years collective experience as a massage therapist, licensed esthetician, creative entrepreneur, and holistic business owner. From a safe space, Alina facilitates flow for others to learn how to harness their core energy and begin living abundantly, tethered within spiritual integrity. She truly becomes a part of your team, supporting you in aligning your vision and your purpose with your core momentum. Alina is driven by the innate ability to embody the love, space, and hope that surrounds all of us, and loves to reflect back to you and loves to reflect that back to you. So you may experience an awakening of this energy within, be inspired to strengthen your faith, and let it guide you in your life. And hi, Alina.
Hi, Laura.
Hi, let me come back and look at your lovely face. How are you today?
Oh, I'm so happy to be here and share your space again. I love our conversations and yeah, I'm excited. So
I always love being around you. So I am curious, what what got you into this holistic wellness bodywork coaching space? What was that journey to get you here?
mhm. I've always been drawn to like holistic healing from a very young age, just really briefly. I have some, health conditions like many of us. And early on, my grandma, my abuela, I think when I was 3, as young as 3, I remember my mom and my parents I remember living with her for a few months because I didn't really know what was going on, but something was going on with internally with my body, and she was into holistic healing. So I feel like back then that kind of set the tone in my curiosity for another way of life. And then that kind of carried through with me throughout my whole, early childhood and some of the pains I was experiencing as a child because of my condition. And then by the time I graduated high school, I was, at that age, you're trying to figure out like what to do with your life career and meaningful things and whatnot. And I feel
Like you're
like that
supposed to know it at 18, right? Like, come on.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
And like at the same time, I grew up with a belief in God, and for me, like that relationship was always real. So I feel like they went hand in hand, like holistic lifestyle and relationship with God. And even at that age, I prayed a lot about, hey, what should I do here? Like, I don't know what to do. I don't want to go to college. There's like a bunch of things going on. And then I just did some research, and I was really interested in body healing. And that led me to massage therapy. And that was probably the first time I really kind of dipped into that field. And then I remember attending like a massage class, like sitting in the back just to see, like with my dad, to see if it was something that I wanted to do. And I walked in and I just felt like I was in the right space. And so anyways, that's what started my massage career at pretty much right out of high school. I was like 18, 19.
Wow.
Yeah, I went right into
That is
massage
so cool.
school. Yeah, I ate it all up. I loved it. And I just dove right into working on people and at the same time receiving that like healing for myself. And then throughout so from like 19 to like 3 years ago, so a good 12, 13 years, I had a really, really busy practice. And um, I had a lot of amazing clientele as massage clients. And then eventually I veered into skincare. And so leading me to coaching, I got into a car accident and I had some injuries there. And it was like I was rear-ended and I didn't realize how impactful those injuries were. I was like a little bit in denial because I was like, I'm just rear-ended. I was sitting at a red light. The guy crashed behind me and I had my seatbelt on, but I had a mild concussion and a little muscle tear. As a massage therapist, that's like our arms, our hands are our money makers, right? So from that moment for like the following year, I really kind of struggled with trying to figure out my balance. Like, all right, I had a really busy schedule. Like I was seeing a lot of clients as, you know, for massages, doing more of the deeper work and all of that. And I had never had any pain or anything where I was able before to do like 5 or 6 sessions in a row, several days a week. Not that that was good for you, but you know, I had all that energy and I didn't really notice any issues until after the accident. So that kept coming up for me, like that body injury, the pain, the why me? And it was like one of the first times that I really was called to stop and like evaluate everything in my life. Like, you know, what am I going to do now? I still want to connect with my clients, but I can't work on them in the same capacity that I was working on them just a few months ago. Like even mentally, like I couldn't even take notes anymore. Like my concussion, like it was probably a good year of like vestibular therapy and a bunch of stuff because I couldn't focus. It was a lot. And then, so I was really just trying to find the next, I guess, a way to take all of this energy I had within me that loved to help facilitate healing for other people. And I was searching for the next big way to connect with my clients in my business. What I didn't realize is that I really needed to, like, my body was calling me to stop and like heal within. And so I think that was one of the first times that I really, you know, I had time to stop and think about like, what am I going to do? What do I want to do? And I just remember like canceling a bunch of clients because I was like, I can't anymore. Like my body's hurting me. I'm getting annoyed at my clients and they're coming in and complaining about, you know, stuff. And I never felt that way before. And it's because I'm in pain and I can't ignore it anymore. So I remember just like, we were living in North Carolina just to take a break. And I heard this, I was sitting on the deck one day and I just was like praying. And I'm like, what am I going to do? You know, like, what am I going to do with all my clients? How am I going to shift them into whatever else I'm doing? I think I investigated like cold laser, bringing in a cold laser machine, like all these different modalities that are just like Band-Aids. And then I just kept hearing this message that got really loud, but it was basically like, you need to disconnect to reconnect. Disconnect to reconnect. Every time I prayed, I kept hearing that, like disconnect. And I'm like, well, I already disconnected. Like I canceled all my clients for like a week. You know, that was in the beginning.
A whole week. Yeah.
A whole week. Yeah.
A whole week.
And I was like taking a break. And then there was an opportunity to move to North Carolina. So I physically moved to space, but that was what started that neural pathway and into my body. And then literally like maybe 8 months later, I was scrolling on Facebook or Instagram at night. And then I saw your lovely advertisement come up and I've been praying a lot. Like, what am I going to do, God? Like, I don't know. Like, I need to heal my body. I need the space. That's what I'm feeling you're calling me to do. But at the same time, what am I going to do for work? You know? And then everything you said in that like, I felt like that was, you know, divine timing.
Did you watch my webinar?
From that Instagram? Yeah. You know, it's a picture of you like with your arms open, like, and it's like, are you a burned out massage therapist? Like everything you said in that, I felt like was speaking to me specifically. And I felt like there was a lot of things in there that I had been praying about that I felt like, ooh, like it caught my attention. And then I signed up it was like midnight. And then I signed up for the webinar the next day. And then I booked my breakthrough session from that webinar because everything you said in the webinar was like, yes, I was like crying. Like, and I'm like, man, I'm not a crier. No one's seeing me, but like, there's something here. And that's what started that whole pathway into coaching, basically. And all the opportunities just opened up. And that was in 2019. So that was probably like 8 months after I started first taking a moment and taking a break. Yeah.
Wow. So I have so much that I want to unpack in this.
Yes, do your thing.
Knowing you and knowing your journey. And also for those of you who are listening, who are like webinar training, I put the link in the comments if you want to go check it out. It's the newbodymind.com/webinar. If you're like, what the hell, you can watch it there. Okay. So there's a couple things that I'm curious about. You mentioned you're our guest expert in the recent issue of BodyMind Living Magazine, which is out today. that you are a recovering caregiver. And there's something in this story that like not like directly expressed, but I'm hearing that you had this injury, like getting rear-ended, but and the pain and managing that. And I'm curious if like when did you become aware that you are a a recovering caregiver? Can you talk about that? Because I feel like I started to hear that,
Yes.
but I'd love to learn more a little about that.
Recovering overgiving caregiver. So I feel like the recovering and the overgiving awareness, that was more through the pandemic. Like probably, yeah, at the start of the pandemic, that's when that awareness, like awarenesses drop in deeper and continue to evolve. And like once you start that pathway and you have awareness of your values and all the things, it's like, oh wow, like this makes sense. And I am still in this recovery mode. And like that's where that continue to deepen. But yeah, I think it probably happened a few months into the BodyMind program, because that was the first of all, I never went to college or anything like that. I like literally went right into massage school. And then even while I was in massage school, I was getting massage clients and working. So I've always been independent and never really bounced ideas off of other people or had someone hold space for me the way I've held for people. So in your amazing program, that was the first time that I was like receiving so much love and support from everybody, from you, from the mentor coaches, the community of other caregivers and healers. And I started being drawn to them like, wow, like I've never been around this many people that actually like there's something that ties us together with how we care for people. So I feel like that's where it started. And it was like in some of the live coaching sessions, whether it was like one-on-one with Carly or in our group sessions, that like one of the first times where we were practicing the coaching, BodyMind coaching. And again, I was coming from the head, and I think it was it Audrey?
I love Audrey.
I know. I think it was Audrey. I think she was my first experience. Like she was, she was at the wave before me. So I was like, she was coaching me, and she is amazing at like the embodiment part. And I think she said, just take a breath. Like she just jumped right into it. She's like, take a breath and bring your awareness into your body. And, like she started basically taking me through the embodiment, and my shoulder was like screaming because I still was like, I got to business wise deeply connect and learn coaching and sell my programs. Right. And I wasn't expecting my body to be like, oh, but here I have something going on. And I just like, so she intuitively guided me through that awareness of what she didn't know yet. She was just speaking. I wasn't saying anything. I was just really being open to the process. And then she was just like, if that, if your shoulder had a message or whatever, what would it say? And it was just like a lot of tears. I don't remember exactly what the words were. I could probably go back to the recordings. I was like, I have it, but it was a lot of tears, and it was around that caregiving. Like you need to take care of yourself. And it was like very firm,
I so much that I want to say right now. I love this. And also I just want to, for those of you who are listening, who are like, I'm a massage therapist, coaching, what? Like this was on Zoom, wasn't it? This interaction that you're having.
Yes.
And so just to point this out, like one of the things that I love about BodyMind coaching is you learn how to use the conversation as an embodiment tool to support your clients and like releasing the energy and giving that energy a voice and like it's so powerful.
One thing right there, because that was the first time that I experienced relief from just letting it out. Up to that point, it was probably a good almost 2 years since I was in the accident, and it was like a year of PT. And I'm a massage therapist. I have friends in the holistic, so I did acupuncture, massage, chiro. Like
I know we're like on the table as much as we can, right? Like,
and but it was relief in a different way. Like when the tears came out, my shoulder like was just like, it felt so much better. And that was, again, that created that pathway to like the caregiving aspect. And then this really works. like you said, a conversation and releasing this, and like, then all the wheels started turning. Like, if I could do this for other people, like this, it was reinforcement and validation. Like this is the right path, because I'm allowing myself to heal and receive, and I'm learning how to do
Well,
that.
and I mean, like, I'm starting to share like the methods of my madness is because I know so many people, and this is my very first, because I remember the very first call you were on. I remember it. I remember you like in the square of the Zoom screen. Uh, and you know, one of the things is we have a lot of people who come into body mind coaching, and I want to go into this, a lot of practitioners who we come from that more modalities, learn the modality, learn the modality, learn the modality, like you mentioned that like you looked into that cold laser as another modality,
I
which
almost
was another
spent like
band-aid.
15,000 on that machine. Yeah, because I'm
Yeah.
like, ah, it's another
What the hell?
modality.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of people come in wanting to learn this to be like, I'm here to help other people, right? There's a little bit of that caregiving, right? You know, we know that there's like shadow sides to all good things, and for caregivers and overgivers, and a lot of people, their intention in coming into the program is like, I'm doing this for everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And we intentionally have, you know, one-on-one support coaches, which Alina actually does some one-on-one
Love it.
support with. Aren't they amazing? With our members, we have groups, we have like these small pods, all this stuff. So part of our thing is we want people to experience it, because we know like you have to do your inner work to help other people. And so I remember that first call, you were on there very studious, taking your notes. You know, I could tell like we laugh a lot in Body Mind. Like I can tell when people are like trying to figure this out in the head. They're like,
Yes.
I'm going to get this right up here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that I can get it right out there. And like, you know, there's a whole neural feedback around that. And I also remember you at our live event and having that experience of really coming into your core.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about like, how did that shift? Like, again, so many, you know, we here's what I find so funny. Holistic practitioners in our work, we get this, we see this, we feel this with our clients, we see what happens. And then we step into our businesses and who we're supposed to be and how we're supposed to put it out there. And we become disconnected because we're like, I got to figure this out. Right. So can you share a little bit about like, what was that moment, that experience when you're like, oh, this isn't going to be from the head. This is actually going to be from my core, right? You have a strong value of love. We're here today to talk about joy. And I so clearly remember that moment. Like,
Yeah. It gives me chills.
I remember where it was in the room. I think it was right around lunch. We were standing by the table, like over by I think there was like a Darth Vader thing. This was at the event space. It makes sense. And like, I just remember like that moment of like, holy shit, like there it is. So can you share your experience?
I love that. Oh my God. There's so many things yeah, you said, we're here to talk about joy. And this is like, for me, so for those of you who don't know me, I know Laura, you know this. My relationship with God is really important. That's my, you know, source, you know, higher power channel. So from a young age, I've always brought it back to me and God and everything that I do, even in my business. And it doesn't mean I get preachy. It's just literally the energy within me. And so as I was becoming more aware of my core values, so that's something you learn and you speak a lot about in any coaching program, but specifically with this one, I started to become consciously aware of my value of love, like, and how strong it was. And for me, it made sense because, you know, the Holy Scriptures say God is love. So if I am constantly trying to connect to God, then it makes sense to me that I was experiencing love throughout my life and constantly finding ways to align to it. So like before that moment, because that was a pivotal moment for me, and I'll share this with everyone in a second, but before that, I was working on. I was really being conscious about connecting to my value of joy, of, you know, cultivating joy and what that means for me. And that started that neural pathway to like, okay, what we focus on expands. I'm like, joy. I really want this to grow in my life. It's something that I've always naturally gone back to. Like, I'm a cry laugher. I can crack up at anything. I love to be around people who, can easily, you know, the friends that you probably, Melanie, for you, like that you're around, you laugh at nothing. And then it's like, you guys continue laughing. So I've always done that naturally, but I wanted to be more conscious of it. So at that live, I think that was January of 2020. And that was when I came back as a support coach. So
yes.
Yes. And so I had been, and then you did right before New Year's, you did an embodiment call for all of us where you encouraged us all to like set intentions for 2020. And so I remember I just kept giggling and like laugh, like through the embodiment, I felt what I know is now joy for me. And I'm like, all right. I've gone through this body mind process of going from the head down into the body and really listening and living in that space. And from that space, pulling out what wants to be honored. And I just felt like my joy is speaking loud. So what can I do to really make this grow? So I remember after that embodiment call, the action step that I came up with was like, every night I just want to watch funny videos to like spark my joy, my humor. Humor for me leads me to like feeling that deep joy. And everyone on that call, there was like 10 other people on there. They were like, they loved it. Everyone was giggling, first of all, when I shared my intention. And then they were like, oh, I'm going to send you videos. And to this day, some of them still do, which I love. So every night I go to bed cracking up. I don't know if my husband loves it, but I love it because it makes me feel happy. And so that started sparking the joy. And then come the retreat, my spiritual integrity value linked to my love, linked to my joy, also started like sparking up. And like it's like activation within. Like once you start on this pathway, where you're really giving voice to your body and like allowing it to have a platform, then I feel like that becomes for me anyways, that has become my main way of action. That's why I call them core actions. That's why I call it core momentum. Like I know what's from my brain and what's from my heart and what's from my core. And the core is like all inclusive, and that's linked to like spiritual channel, love, joy. So I was sharing a room with Shayna, lovely Shayna Hartman. And, we were the night before, I think this is like 3 days into the retreat or something like that. But all these scriptures basically flooded my mind. And I'm like, the first one was like how women are a large army. And I know that most of us in that group, I think all of us, right? I don't think there were any males in there. So I was like, I'm not sure. I don't think Mark was in there, but that kept coming to me. But other ones, right? About spreading good news and this and that. And I was like, oh man, this is like, I feel like, God wants me to share something with other people. And I don't know if I want to do this because I feel like I'm being called to stand up in front of a big class, and I don't like being seen in that way. Like that, all those things started going on, right? So then I was like, no, I'm going to trust my gut and what that means for me now. I'm going to trust the process. I'm going to, allow my joy and my love to lead me, and then trust that whatever is meant to be will be. And I just remember the next day, like I shared this with Shayna too. Maybe it was for accountability. I just wanted to say it loud. I was like, I feel like I'm supposed to share something, but I don't know when, and I'm nervous. And she was super supportive. And then I remember we were just sitting there, and I felt like I was in the back of the room on purpose, and there was like a spotlight on you and you were in the front of the room. And I was just like with my head down and feeling that whole waving thing going on. And I was like excited. And I was just like, all right, I feel like I have to share this, but I was like, God, I really don't want to, but if you want me to, I will. And I'm just like going through this like inner convulsion in my body. And then all of a sudden I look up, and you were like mid-sentence, and you just looked at me and you're like, Alina, I feel like you want to share something. And I was like, all right, this is God. Like, I'm like, you lead me, spirit lead me, right? Like that reminds me of that song. But
if anybody wants to know my superpower, it is that.
Oh my goodness. Like
I don't know where it is.
Superpower. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And in that moment I was like, all right, this message is bigger than me. Practice what I preach kind of thing. Like if I really am feeling like, God has been my channel and is really the love that I experience and the joy and the peace and all of that, like if I believe that truly comes from his spirit, and that like I can be used as a channel for him and it can help everyone else, then I'm going to step outside of my comfort zone in my head and just let it lead me. And then I don't really remember everything that happened after. It was like an out of body experience. I just remember my body going up to the front of the class and just speaking. And I felt like love and joy were leading my voice, you know?
That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
And you bring up such a good point, because I know when we stepped into this topic of navigating joy, there is so much vulnerability, right, around joy. I think Brene Brown says that joy is the most vulnerable emotion that we experience, because there is this like being seen, right? And so, you know, if somebody's listening to this, and I think this is a place where people do hold back, right? And whether it's joy or not, like I hear all the time, like, oh, being seen, putting myself out there, right? You know, and I think this is what's so important about living your values. A lot of times when people, you know, and gosh, there's so much that I want to say in this. Like every coaching program I've ever been in talks about defining your values and figuring out your values. And a lot of times they end up being these pretty statements that we put on the walls. But like values they're an embodiment, right? It's not about getting your values right in the head and putting the pretty words on the paper that you think people are going to like. It's about like they're an expression of who you are at your core. And so to live your values, and especially the value of joy, the energy of joy, there is a vulnerability that comes with that. Right? So I'm curious, like, are there other practical ways where you've navigated that vulnerability, maybe like in your business, or like, I know sometimes like this is going to sound crazy, but I think raising rates, like we help a lot of people raise their rates. I think a lot of times, like people will like raise their rates, like there's a lot of fear and all this shit behind it. But when you're raising your rates because you're coming from your value of service and love and joy, it still is vulnerable, but it's a different experience. So do you have any like what are some ways that maybe in your business and how you work with clients or stepping into your coaching role that you've also navigated this, and how did you move past the vulnerability of actually honoring the value?
Yes, that's such a great question, especially if we bring it to business for those who are listening. And like, I know it's hard, like when you're in the head and want to know how to do it. For me, it comes down to, with all the values, but specifically with joy, is, you know, finding, first of all, choosing how I want to feel, right? So with coaching, with clients, right? Like a space now with getting clients in and consistently coaching, whatever that means for each of us, you know, like you said, what comes up first, or what is easier to come up, is the fear and all of the, what we consider catabolic energy, because all of these values have energy, all of these emotions have energy behind them. Fear, the anxiety, the worry, the concern has more of like a draining energy, more of a catabolic, destructive energy. Joy, love, like, oh, I want to feel super happy as I'm like doing my market research, or as I'm trying to figure out my rates, or as I'm trying to figure out what my service is, or whatever, ideal client, right? I want to feel more in my body where that joy lives, like in our core values live deep in your body. I want to feel that joy. I want to feel that love. I want to experience that. So first, I kind of go on that path where I seek, I search inwardly for what's the value that I want, or how do I want to feel, right? That's part of what the body mind process is. How do I want to feel? I want to feel happy right now. I want to feel like I can breathe. And like, whenever I experience my joy, I do that. Like, I notice now my body's like, okay, you're starting to feel it now.
Yeah.
And then I basically make decisions from that energy first. So just to back it up, when I'm sitting down at my computer and I'm on my website, for example, and I'm trying to figure out what my next service is, or my ideal client, and how to like reach out to them, I notice that the energy is up in my head. And then I choose, okay, do I want to feel this way, or do I want to feel another way? And I always want to feel another way. So then I try to identify that. Like, well, how do I want to feel? I want to feel really happy right now. I want to feel like everything's fine. Like I'm super content and coming from that opposite of scarcity mode. Like I already have everything that I need. This is bonus, right? And those things lead me towards the joy. And then from there, I can't give you the exact actions that happens, but that's the beginning process. And then the joy leads me. So from the energy of joy, then all of the ideas that are always swimming around in my zone of genius just line up. And it's like, okay, I know what I'm going to do now.
Yeah.
So I trust that. And then I go with that, basically.
Yeah. And you're also very creative. And you put things out there. And we just had a conversation in the community around how, again, this I love how you talked about the catabolic energy of fear, like how it's destructive. Because I see time and time again, these amazing practitioners who are like, I want to help people. I want to do big things. They feel that calling. What I love about holistic practitioners is like this work is often, it's a calling. It's a calling to help and make the world a better place. Mm-hmm. And then there's this gremlin fear that's like, but I have to be seen. Right. And, then this like, well, then I need to like contort myself into a reel for 15 seconds and all these, like, they go into this whole, like, let me disconnect from my truth to appease somebody out here so that they can get me into the place that I want to be so that I can somehow help them. And I'm like, all marketing is an expression of your values, right? I love to connect with people and I strangely love to talk. So, hey, look at us having a conversation. This is super fun. We're going to reuse this in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. I think when you come from your values, it changes. And I know we have a lot of people in our community who are really creative. And when I can tell, let me just say this plainly, I can tell, and how many of you, give me a 1 in the comments if you know what I'm talking about. I can tell when somebody, I'm going to use reels for an example because like I can't do them. Like right now, it's not my thing. I can tell when somebody is like creating a reel to try and like contort themselves into some kind of marketing and they're very, very disconnected and it like leaves me feeling like, oh. Versus I can also tell when people like are deeply in their values, they love to create, and they use that as a tool to express their values. And they're like, damn, how'd you do that?
Yes.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Fun. I know exactly what you're talking about because I have this other business venture, whatever. But part of the thing is like once a month we do power hours, right? And it's to get together to motivate each other to do like reels and like social media marketing. But I, like many of us here, I get so drained by social media. And I'm probably a lot of the group team that I'm part of, they're very strong-minded and very like, they're opposite of how like I feel like, not to compare, but when I'm there, it's just like, all right, I want to do it my way. And I'm feeling right now that I don't want to do the reel. And I did one of the reels, but I know what you're talking about because I'm like, is this right? Like, and it came from a whole other catabolic energy. But it's interesting because when I do see other people's reels, the ones that I'm drawn to are the ones that make me laugh or they're having fun. It's not even necessarily about their business or whatever they're trying to sell. It's just showing a part of them. And also when people share live and it's coming from the heart or from a value, the authentic part of you, and those things live within you. Those are the innate things that don't come from the figuring it out and trying to, get clients in. It's just you being you and you being seen for a part of who you are. So yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. And I mean, like just if anybody knows, like my marketing strategy has always been connect to my values and use these amazing tools to share them, right? Connect with my values and share. So like part of the reason that webinar that you watched, that people still watch, we had somebody watch it the other day who was like, holy cow. The reason like that always worked for me is because like it is a natural way for me to express who I am and how I live. And like, it's a tool to honor my values, right? So start with the values and look at all the amazing tools people have. Like if you love to connect with people, yay, podcasts. If you love to write, email marketing. The biggest thing though, I think is like, once you do that, you're going to hit the vulnerability, gremlin, fear of being seen. All right. But put it out there. This is like imperfect action consistently taken will get you there.
Consistency is different for everybody, because that's the other thing. Like, there's the formula, the remedy, the processes. Like one of the things the other groups were telling me was like 45 minutes every morning, go on social media, do the engagement post, this and that. I'm like, I don't want to do it. And that's okay. You don't have to. So your consistency will look different. Mine are more like aligned with the seasons. I'm like a seasonal, put myself out there, right? With the season.
I love that. Yes.
Yeah. And that gives me permission. Like I imagine when you did your webinar, you were feeling it. Like you were feeling,
oh God, yeah.
Yeah, you were vibing, like in a good way, like anabolic feelings and all that stuff, and that's what we felt. So it wasn't even necessarily specifically every word that you said, but it was the energy behind your words. So the energy
totally
behind
is.
Yeah.
It totally is. It totally is. And still to this day now, part of why like we now also have, because I've consistently taken imperfect action, and actually because I know some of you are watching this on Facebook, you guys can go back through my old videos and you can tell when I worked with mentors who told me the post every day, blah, 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 do this, blah, blah, blah. There's videos and posts where it's like very much doing it because that's what you're supposed to do, versus the videos that have always just come from my like, okay, this is right. This is the message that wants to come through. Those ones have always just done better. You can feel it, right? And I've consistently now done this over a long period of time. So there's a lot out there. So I think I'm not saying it's not, don't take action, but it's the energy behind it, right? That inner work, honoring the values, seeing, like, I think Alina, you and I probably do a very similar thing of, I ground down. And even before this conversation, it's like, all right, what's asking to come out? Like how can I honor this energy and this connection and see where it leads, right? That's so different than like, let me go after my agenda.
Yes, totally different energy. And people feel that. We all feel that no matter wherever you're coming from. So it's choice, how do you want people to feel?
Yeah. I love this. I love this so hard. So I have a couple more questions as we wrap up. I'm curious, for people who are listening who maybe joy doesn't feel as accessible right now. Or maybe joy is like back in a deep corner somewhere. What might you want to say to them as they navigate joy for themselves?
Like the first thing that comes to mind is be kind with yourself and keep it super simple and just get started with it. So if you feel like for whatever reason that you're not experiencing joy but you have that desire to, I would say look for, explore maybe the external reasons first that make you feel that joy. For example, like you have, how old is James?
Oh, he's
now? Like
2. He's 2. He just turned 2. Yeah.
That age is amazing. So like I practice this, right? This is how in the beginning I was helping myself cultivate and lay that groundwork for joy and experiencing it every day in my life. I just externally, to get out of my body in the moment when I was feeling the pain or the fear or whatever, and it was just too loud, I was like, all right, I'm going to look around me and find my reasons for joy, or find the joy that's literally surrounding me. So for me, it included my 20-minute, morning car ride with Bella, with her face hanging out the window, me looking in the rearview mirror and her eyelids like flapping everywhere and making me laugh. Like those little things that literally make me felt aspects of joy, like the laughter or the appreciation or the blessings or the feel good energy. If you have children, like toddlers, like just watch them for 5 minutes and see what they do. Like the other day, my Michaela now is 2.5, and she's starting to speak more. I know. And she's got a little list, and she picked up but my phone rang, and she had these little like spinning things. I forget what they're called, but they're like, they look like flowers, but she was holding one in each hand, right? And my phone rings, and she just puts it up to her ear and looks out and is like, hello. And it like, those little things like make me crack up, and it may be different for you, and maybe you need to watch something funny, but basically get on the different, I call them the joy rides, like find your joy ride. Yeah. The train of thought that is going to lead you to experiencing joy. And the different tracks that lead you there for me are like playfulness, laughter, fun, appreciation. So those are, for me, are like elements of joy, of the deeper house of joy, where if I'm having a really bad day, or a moment in the day where I'm like, for whatever reason, I'm upset at whatever. If that comes up for me, then I choose how I want to feel. And I almost always want to feel happy. And then I'll say, okay, in this moment, what will make me happy? Is it watching a 5-minute animal video that's going to make me crack up? Is it, FaceTiming my niece? Is it taking Bella for a car ride? Is it whatever? There's different little avenues, but what's going to make me feel playful and laugh and have fun and appreciate things or people in my life? And
I love that.
Always, I'm going to say almost always, every single time now, when you do that, it puts you on the track or the train that leads you to the joy.
Yeah.
So find your joy ride. That's what I would say.
I love that. And I think just as you're talking, what is so clear is, joy, choosing joy. You choose it. And I feel like what we get to see today, the woman in front of us, is somebody who has intentionally chosen joy in so many different moments, where now it gets to be a lot more automatic and like it's more of your default than having to like work towards it. Because I know you've had other challenges and things that you've worked through in your life, and that, it's a muscle, right? Choosing joy is a muscle. It's something that you have to flex. And I love that you kind of like, find these little places where there's joy already. So when you're like, okay, I'm consciously going to choose the energy of joy, you have this like, it's almost like you can like pick a thing out of the jar to say, okay, well, I know I want to feel joy, even though I don't feel it right now, but I know this little thing that maybe takes me 5 or 10 minutes will help get me there. And you can start with that.
Yes. Yeah. You're so right. And like, the starting point, like, I just want to bring this up too, because, with loss and grief, I've experienced so much of that. And a lot of us have, and that emotion of grief, it's like, this was really put to the test. Like my joy was really put to the test earlier this year when my grandma passed. And I may cry, but these are happy tears. But when my grandma passed, who was my spirit, both my grandmas were my spiritual rock, so she was my last spiritual rock that was breathing. But during that experience, I was intentional, like you said. I was like, all right, God, like I really want to feel, if there's any way that I can feel joy in these last 2 weeks of her life, where both her and I knew the end was coming. Like she knew, I could feel that from her. She was ready to go. She had been suffering. And so I wanted to feel joy, even in the moments where towards the end, she was bedbound in a coma. I was changing her diapers. Like my grandma was so independent, even up to like that last 2 weeks on hospice, she had done everything for herself. So there's 2 ways I could have looked at it. When I was there with her, I spent 2 full weeks, 24/7, being her hospice caregiver. And I watched her body shut down. I watched all of like that whole process of dying. She lost so much weight. There was many reasons where I could have gone down the one path and be like, how am I doing this? I can't do that. I can't see someone that I love so much go through this, right? What helped me is the intentional choice to experience joy and also express the love that I have for her and love that I have for God. She had love for God as well. And I just remember before she passed, that's that final moment, right? It's all a choice, and it's going to be so different for everybody. And I had been practicing this for a good 1.5 years of, like you said, putting those things in the jar, right? So I felt like I had that energy within me that even 2 weeks after not eating or sleeping and literally just changing diapers and taking care of her and watching her and holding her hand and watching her die, I remember feeling like, all right, God, like I prayed and I just said, I really want to feel joy and I want her to experience peace. As she takes her last breath, I want to feel both of us to feel that energy. I know. And I was crying, but I felt so protected. Like my heart, I just felt like it was like in this orb, like this pink, bright orb of like love. And I know that was coming from a higher source, you know? And I just kept going with it. Because if I went the other route, I would have lost myself, you know? And so I prayed and I said, if you do exist, which I do believe you do, but if you do, please, you know, show me this. And I prayed that he would power down her heart gently and just give her so much peace that she was ready to let go. Because that towards the end, I felt that intuitively from her, that she was still, even though she was in a coma, I felt part of her was like, it's the final bits as you're going and where it's like, I don't know if I could really let go. I felt that from her. And I just prayed for her and I said, fill her heart with peace, fill my heart with joy with her, and just let her pass. And 15 minutes later, I just ran into the room because I felt like pulled in there. And then I woke my mom up. I'm like, mom, put your hand on her. She's going to go. And she's like, what do you mean? I'm like, trust me. And my mom was like singing one of her favorite songs in her ear. I was holding her hand and she took her last breath with both of us like on her. And like in that moment, like the catabolic energy was numbed and the joy and the love and the peace were like overflowing, you know, so even in that moment. And that was huge for me because before I started this program, I was like, I had this paranoia and fear of losing loved ones. And it was driving me crazy. And I couldn't even go a day without worrying about someone dying. So it's like full circle where I'm like, my grandma, who was so huge, took up so much space in my body. I just witnessed her passing and I feel at peace and I feel joy. And that was so like validating for me that it works. It's real. And I don't know. It's a lot. I know.
That is so beautiful, and I think such a. I believe we're here to share this work, to demonstrate, and I know all of us have challenges and our struggles, and I mean like obviously we're all going through this big collective experience together, and I feel like just how you share that. And that beautiful story of your grandma. I'm so glad you brought her up. She's on my list to talk about. So, because I know we share our grandma life. I'm just thank you for that. Like this is what it means to live this work. Right? This isn't just like yay, pretty words, fancy stuff, nice memes and images. This is like in the moment. In the moment when life feels so big and overwhelming, when there's challenges, when things don't go according to plan, like you can still choose the joy in that. Like that to me, I mean, the whole reason we do this, why we have BodyMind Living, why we're doing this interview is because we want to talk about what it means to live this work.
Mm-hmm.
And what an amazing gift for you and your mom and your grandma. Like, hot fucking damn. So do you have a message for anybody who is listening, that just to wrap up our time together, any final thoughts you might want to share?
I just want to tell you, I love you, even though I don't know you. I love you, and you are totally able and you have the ability to experience what you want to experience and choose it. And with joy specifically, just experience it in a small way once, and you'll be able to feel that joy and embrace it forever. So just allow yourself space and grace to feel that no matter what you're going through.
Yeah. And even if it's just a little bit, like if it's in your pinky finger, you know, celebrate where you see that, where you find that. And Alina, where can folks connect with you?
Yeah, I think the easiest place right now is just go to my website, I have a free discovery page on there. You can send me an email. My phone number's on there. You can send me a text.
Woo
You can
woo.
explore a little bit. Yeah. Illuminateyourcore.com. That's my
Illuminateyourcore.com. Oh, I love that. Oh, wow. Like, I feel like we could talk forever.
Yeah.
And I adore you. And for those of you listening, if you want to share your key takeaways, what landed most with you today, and maybe even what is one way you're going to choose joy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I
take
want to
that
know.
forward with you today. Yes. Yes. Please share that. And thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me, Laura.
Thank you, Alina.